It pairs the mobile application. We also have a web app. We have an educational side. So it's a vast network. And then we individualize. But that was just a tip of the iceberg. You want that credibility, right? We introduced this. The big league team started calling. We got it in the hands of Joe Beimel, some other key trainers, in partnership with Perfect Game. We're able to get our message out to hundreds of thousands of parents and players and coaches.
Would you have any advice for newer founders, done any direct-to-consumer growth, social media advertising, paid advertising, app store optimization?
100%. I mean, you got to get it out in the market. Make sure you got a good...
Hey, are you Duggan Moran, the founder of ArmCare.com, the platform used by 60,000 athletes, including MLB pitchers and top collegiate programs to help pitchers throw harder, stay healthier, and avoid blowing out their arms?
That's me.
Awesome. Duggan, so I'm a big Cincinnati Reds fan, right? And so when I saw a video pop up on my feed the other day of TJ Antone, Reds pitcher, using both your app and your device, I was like, all right, what is this thing? So next thing you know, I'm looking into it and I'm reading about how 60K athletes are using this tool to actually track their arm strength. Pretty crazy. So I had to call and ask you directly, what exactly is ArmCare? How did it become the tool for pitchers?
I think it's been an evolution. So we've been working on this. I feel like everyone sees ArmCare as this new thing and it's brand new. We've been working on this thing for over 10 years. So a little backstory to it, but ultimately what happened was the Colorado Rockies came out with a study talking about shoulder strength and the relationship between that and injuries. And it showed that players that had weak shoulders moving into the season, would get hurt. So we bought a bunch of digital dynamometers. My dad's a physical therapist, and being the owner of Crossover Symmetry as well, I'm like, are we moving the needle in terms of strengthening these guys' arms? So we did, and what we found was incredible. These guys, we went to Perfect Game tournaments and started testing players, and they were weak, they were imbalanced, and they didn't know it. So, then where do we go from here? So we started doing Google Sheets and kind of, okay, how do we let these players know? So They would test, we'd enter their data, we'd automatically email them a report, and we thought, hey, there's something here. And also, highlighting the fact that you're weak is a good way for us to sell arm strengthening bands and equipment, right?
Of course. Crossover Symmetry.
Crossover Symmetry. But that was just a tip of the iceberg. So kind of moving forward, the problem was the dynamometer cost about $2,000, right? You needed a trained professional to actually administer the test. And it took about 20 minutes to do it. So we knew that the value was in actually monitoring these guys rather than this one-time test that we were doing at events saying, okay, you're weak relative to players your age, but we didn't really see how is your arm responding week over week? How is it fatiguing? Are you getting stronger? And that's where we saw the value. So we found a dynamometer. It's awesome. We actually vetted it against these medical grade ones. And rather than costing $2,000, it was $300. I was like, all right, this is a game changer. And then we built the app so players can do it themselves without any assistance. They go in there, they put it on the wrist, and they press against a wall and a doorway, anything. And now they can monitor their own arm in less than 5 minutes.
Wow.
And then we individualize their training. So if you're weak in a certain area, we give you exercises for that. We're able to determine if maybe you're weak because you're just weak, or maybe you're weak because you're fatigued.
Makes sense.
And if you're fatigued, what are you going to do? Are you going to increase training load? No, you need to decrease it. So actually, the stimulus is opposite than what you would normally get. So anyway, that's kind of a little bit of the backstory on how it came to be.
Yeah. So talking about that pain point, obviously this started as something for elite pitchers, and then if I'm not mistaken, it transitioned to something that was for youth sports and for anyone. Is that kind of how it played out?
Well, you always you want that credibility, right? And so we introduced this, and naturally a lot of the big league teams started calling. And so we were speaking with them, but the youth market was always kind of our bullseye because we know that's where most of the players are, and that's where we can make the biggest difference. A lot of the big league teams, they were already doing this type of testing, but they're using $15,000 strength devices, and they got an army of medical professionals analyzing this, data analysts. And so that's already a part of their process for the most part.
Right.
It just wasn't available to anyone else.
Got it. So talk to me about the integration between the physical device and then the technology. What is the dynamic between the two, and then how does that work?
Okay, so are you talking about, so we have the dynamometer, so it's a sensor.
Right, the sensor, and then it connects to the mobile application, correct?
Pairs the mobile application. We also have a web app as well.
Got it.
Where coaches can dive in deep and get granular. But yeah, it just pairs Bluetooth, and it's got an IMU chip in there. So we actually test range of motion as well. So we do range of motion and strength. And then once you get your data, we recommend specific resistances for the exercises you're doing. So if you're, say your extra rotation strength is 25 pounds, we're going to recommend that you use this resistance package, and you can just buy those resistance bands, and it's going to be perfect for your strength. Now, as your strength improves, the app will deliver a message, hey, you're getting stronger. Now it's time to increase the resistance so you can continue those gains.
Very cool.
So that's kind of the relationship.
Yeah.
And then we have an educational side. It's a vast network of...
So it can almost replace like the trainer in this case, or even serve as a, maybe not even replace, but as a complement to the trainer for at-home workouts when they're not in their sessions, right?
No doubt. But what this is able to do, it actually aids the trainers. So they don't have to spend all this time crunching the data and saying, okay, for you, you're weak in this part of your shoulder, you got to do these exercises. It just does all that for them, and then they can review it.
So then they know exactly where the issue is, and they can hit that problem head on.
Right. It's like having a pitching coach, a physical therapist, a strength trainer, athletic trainer all in your pocket.
Got it. So Duggan, talk to me about growth. So where did you get your first wave of users from? How did that happen?
The first wave of users, we launched this, and we got it in the hands of a couple key people. So I had some previous relationships. One of those key people, his name is Joe Beimel. He's a big leaguer, pitched for, I think, over a decade in the big leagues. And I sent this over to Joe and said, hey, just test this out with your guys. He's like, I want to be the test dummy first. I'm like, all right. So he goes in there and he's been using it. And about 2 months later, he calls me. He's like, you would not believe what's happened. It's like, I'm left-handed. He's 44 at the time, and he was throwing high 80s. He's like, I'm touching 95 miles an hour now. And I go, what? And he's like, I know. He's like, I have to give this a shot now. I can't be throwing 95 from the left side, former big leaguer, and not just give it another shot, because he retired like 3 years before that.
Right.
He actually went back, pitched in AAA, throwing mid-90s, and he should have been in the big leagues, but there was some politics involved there.
Of course, yeah.
A 44-year-old, getting up there versus... So anyway, that's a pretty cool story. So we got in the hands of him and some other key trainers. We also have a partnership with Perfect Game, and we're able to get our message out to hundreds of thousands of parents and players and coaches that way on the B2C side.
So partnerships was kind of your main growth driver. Is what it sounds like.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Have you guys done any direct consumer growth as far as social media advertising, paid advertising, app store optimization, any of that type of stuff?
100%. Yeah, we do that. It's funny. We've tested both value props, right? So the two value props is injury prevention and it's velocity enhancement, right? And what we found is, even though we developed the system in our heart, this is to reduce injury rates. That is what we designed it. But the nice thing about strengthening your arm is the byproduct is velocity. So we actually have data showing that pitchers are throwing harder, about 4.5 miles an hour on average over a 10-week period if they use it consistently. So that's our message to these kids, because they think they're bulletproof, and they're not going to buy something for injury prevention. Yeah. But if you say, hey, if you use this right, you're going to throw 4 miles an hour harder, they're all about it.
100%.
So we have an internal message. We say, sell performance, deliver injury prevention.
Interesting. And so you put that out. Are you leveraging a certain platform more than others? Is there one that has worked really well for you guys?
Meta, Google are going to be our primary.
Got it.
But
would you have any advice for newer founders that are getting started on those platforms, or maybe just trying to get early validation for a product?
You got to get it out in the market, and they're going to communicate that, and you can make sure you got a good communication with those guys. We had that with these key facilities. Say, hey, we're having a problem here, and we would make modifications. So for sure.
Absolutely. Has there been any big friction points for you as far as cost, skepticism by the athletes, tech setup? Has there been any points there that you've had to solve along the way?
Yeah, this is a new technology for the general public, right? Yeah. So I liken this to ball flight technology, like TrackMan and stuff. TrackMan, Rapsodo, these ball flight technologies now that are just so prevalent, and everyone knows how to use them today. But 10 years ago, this is cool. It tells me my my revolutions and the angle of it. I guess that's kind of cool. But now it's like it's a science on developing these pitches. And that's why these guys have a wicked array of, pitches. And I feel like that's where ArmCare is. It's going to go. It's going to be a vital tool in everyone's bag when they know the value that it has and how it can help them, make smarter decisions on the field, help them train better, monitor arm fatigue, a bunch of different things.
Yeah. So are you more focused right now on vertical expansion, which could be like more features, or even like horizontal growth, which could be more sports, geos, levels? Like what does that look like right now for you guys?
We're focused on baseball still. So baseball, softball. That said, we are exploring early adopters. We have people and swim coaches using it. We have actually University of Georgia football using it with their quarterbacks. We got NFL quarterbacks using it. So we have different volleyball, anything overhead that you're using your shoulder at high velocities, that's our wheelhouse. So
100%.
Definitely I see that, but we're focused right now to we haven't captured less than 1% of the baseball market. We need to go in there and hit that hard.
Definitely.
And then we can move on.
Well, on that topic, Duggan, so where can coaches, players, or organizations go to get started with ArmCare, and what's the first step they should take?
Yeah, armcare.com. Just head there if you're a coach. We actually have a guy that's an expert in this, and he actually ran this at the big league level, and he'll call you and walk you through everything. But if you're an individual, just get the assessment package, download the app, and you're going.
Incredible. Awesome, Duggan. Well, thanks so much for taking my random FaceTime, and hope to see you soon.
All right, thanks, Nick.
All right, see you, Duggan.